Welcome, welcome, welcome back to Hot Chocolate and a Marshmallow, the podcast where we talk about life and this healing journey that we're going on. And it is 5 o'clock somewhere. Don't let me forget that for sure. It is 5 o'clock somewhere, and I thank you so much for tuning in with me today. I have a topic that I'm ready to dive into. As I'm kind of in it right now, dealing with it. So I want to talk about it, and I think that it's important to talk about it. And the idea of healing out loud and dealing with the feelings that come when they come, for the simple fact that this is how you get through the process, and this is how you heal, and this is how you discover yourself, and how you're able to handle situations that arise. And sometimes you might feel like it might look like things are going super well, and then all of a sudden something can happen and it just feels like you're taking a couple of steps back. But instead of taking, full steps, backwards, you might stumble a little bit and you catch yourself before you start falling backwards faster than you anticipated. So, anyways, I hope you guys all had a really, 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 really good day, and that you're going to enjoy your 5 o'clock hour. I'm grateful that you chose to spend some time with me during your 5 o'clock hour. I appreciate all the support that you guys are showing, and I'm feeling so blessed to be able to do this and to connect with you guys out there and to be able to share, some of my story and just to share the healing process, because I think it's just so important. So, let's get to it. So that way, you guys can go ahead and still have some time to finish off your 5 o'clock hour today, wherever you are. If you have any comments, questions, go ahead and type those in the comment section below, and I will reply. As always, whatever stage that you're in, please chime in. This is a way where we can all connect together in a community of people who are, going through this process and going through the journey called life. Nobody should ever feel like they're alone, and we don't want people to feel like they're alone here. So, in addition to that, when you write in your comments, go ahead and click the like button. You can share this podcast if you feel it's going to help somebody else too that you may know going through a tough situation. And subscribe so you know when the new episodes come out. So that's what we want you guys to do. Okay, so let's kind of get into this. We're going to get started here. Today I'm going to talk about the stages. And I'm going to go through the stages that I've been through already. I'll go through the first two very briefly, and then I'm going to touch on the stage that I am working through currently. Something had occurred earlier, a little minor situation had occurred, and I recognized that it needed to be handled immediately, and I did. So that's a part of where in this journey, when I spoke about earlier, where you will find that situations will come, and then sometimes you're going to feel as if you're taking more than two steps back, but yet when you get to a certain point in the journey, you're going to be able to recognize the situations for what they are and how you are learning to handle the situations when they arise through the strength that you've built. And when you do that, when you're able to immediately recognize what is happening, and you can process it fairly quickly in your, with your emotion and your mentality, then that helps you not take so many steps further back. I feel like today I just kind of stumbled a bit. And I can stand strong after my little stumble. I can stand strong and go hard and working towards, that emotion and why, and why this triggered certain feelings for me. And then go ahead and start working forward again, on all the other things that, I have going on or that you may have going on. So anyhow, um grief, I would say, is the first stage, because after you make the decision to move forward with your life without somebody or somebody of significance, it is very hard. And sometimes, especially in the case, in my case with marriage and divorce, um, it's extremely hard when you have learned that marriage is such a sacred union, and you believe that even with all your heart, not just knowing it or learning it, but you believe that. And it's a very, very hard decision to make when you just knew, all your life, you just knew that this was that one person, the one person who you were going to grow old with, that, you're going to have your family with, and you're going to watch your family grow, and you guys are going to go gray together, and X, Y, and Z. And that all just, goes away. And while there's somebody that is still here on earth, you still grieve. And it's hard. It's so hard because you have to learn to deal with the fact, one, that now this life is completely gone, destroyed, destructed. Like, it's gone, and it's not anything that it was ever going to be, or that you hoped that it would be. And that's a loss. And so you have to process this loss, and while also having a hope that maybe, because the grief is still tied to somebody who is physically here, that maybe there's something that could be revived. Maybe there's something that could be changed and fixed, that this doesn't really have to die, because we're still alive, we're still here, we can fix this, we have breath in our lungs, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to fix this. And so you go back and forth in your head constantly, day to day, like, how is this happening? Why is this happening? What did I do? What did I do wrong? What can I do to fix it? There's so much, and you cry, and you think about all the memories, and you look at pictures, and you get frustrated, and you try again to try to fix, this with that person, and it doesn't work. And the only thing that you can do is just feel your heart shattering, and it's crazy. It's the craziest feeling to feel, like, when your heart is just so broken, like, you just feel like it's just completely shattered. I don't think ever in my life, any relationship that I had prior to my marriage, like, I've never felt that before. And it, so many of the emotions that you will feel are some that you may never feel before. Like, heartbreak is really real. And it's something that is like, if you haven't experienced it, I wouldn't want anybody to feel it, because it really hurts. Like, it hurts a lot. um and you find somehow the strength to keep pushing through, to keep pushing through, to keep pushing through, to keep pushing through, even though you're seeing that change will never come. And it makes it harder, to push through. But you look at the things that are before you. I had to look at my beautiful kids, um and at that point, at some point, my granddaughter, arriving here to the world. And so those were some of the things that pushed me, when I was in some of the darkest moments, dealing with my grief. Once you get through that process, you end up getting through this denial phase, that you've lost something. Like, you don't want to believe that you're actually now, you know pretty much through the grieving process, even though it still kind of strings along. But you're now in this denial phase where it's like, no, I don't want to believe this. Like, I do not want to believe that this is no longer my life, that this is no longer happening for me, like there was no way that this could be fixed, that there was nothing that I could possibly do to fix my marriage. And that process takes a lot, because you're like, love should fix it. Love should fix it all. Like, and love wasn't fixing it. The love that I felt that I was able to give to this person, it wasn't fixing it. Trying to show that this person, like, no, like, you're the one person, you're my person, and that doesn't fix it. And you have to work through all those emotions too. And then you'll start to be able to feel like, okay, I can get through this, one day at a time, one day at a time. um while you're going through all of the other emotions, when you're learning about the situation and what's happened over the years and what you've been through and what your mind has been through, um and what's been the damage that has been done. And so there's a lot to process. It's not a simple process by any means. um After going through that period in that stage of the journey, um, I have ended up in the stage of anger. I am still in the stage of anger, and I'm finding that out as of the past couple hours, that those feelings still remain. As much as I can feel joy in many days, or and I can find joy in things that I do throughout the day, or I can find moments where I'm able to just dance and have a good moment, but yet there's still anger that is residing. And it's crazy, because I feel like I'm one who has dealt with my anger very well over the years, because I know that you're not supposed to just hold on to that, like, and hold on to anger and let the sun set on our anger, because we don't know what's going to happen to us or the people that we love by any means at any moment. And I've always tried to keep that, even in my relationships, like, let's hash this out. Like, we need to hash this out, because I don't want anything to happen to you. And I wasn't able to hash out what, we had going, or the situation that was going on, or the argument that happened, or the disagreement that occurred. Whatever that is, I've always, tried to be like, okay, let's hash this out. Like, let's talk about this. And understandably, not everybody is like that, because whether you are not like that because, or the person is not like that because they didn't grow up that way, and maybe people didn't talk in their family, or maybe people have had their own traumas that they haven't healed from, or decided that it was time for them to break the chains from what they learned and saw from their childhood, that they felt that they needed to change. And that is how I felt in my life, and that's how I've gone through my life, just trying my hardest to do the things that I felt that were necessary for me to start to break chains and start to break generational cycles that were bad for the outlook that I wanted for my family. So when you get to that phase, sometimes, in the beginning, you're going to just be so frustrated about anything. And the slightest situation that comes up, you might get really angry about it, and you're going to get frustrated. And it's going to be because you're like, why is this still going on? I've just dealt with the stage of grief. I've dealt with the stage of denial. I'm still kind of dealing with the remnants of that, you know, from day to day, but not as much. And now I've got to go into this phase where now things that happen with regards to the person or the situation that you're dealing with, that was a hard situation or a toxic situation, now you got to deal with that, and you're like, I just want to be left alone. Like, why do I consistently have to deal with something from this when that person no longer wants to deal with me? They don't want to hear from me. They don't want to, talk to me to try to get through the situation as it should be resolved. And then it's like there's situations that constantly occur, and you have to deal with them because one, either they may involve your children if you guys have children together, or it could be something else that it involves. In my case, a lot of it was either behind my children or behind the person, the family member that lived with us, who I took care of for a good portion of time throughout our marriage. So it's just crazy because you go through one stage and you feel like, okay, like I'm starting to feel like I'm healing a little bit. I'm learning more about myself. I'm learning how to deal with all these situations. Now I'm in this anger phase, and now I have to deal with that. Why am I angry? How do I deal with it? What makes me angry? How long am I going to be angry? How long does this stage last? There's so much that, when it comes down to it, this is where my friends and my therapist has said time is not anything that will help you if you continue to rush. Like, I cannot rush this process. And I literally had to learn that I can't rush this process. I don't think that I was really trying, or what I realized, I'll say, is that I wasn't necessarily trying to rush the process. It's that I wasn't seeing progress personally that I could measure in order to say, okay, like I'm moving forward, I'm moving forward, I'm moving forward, until I started in therapy and started to really see, how do I cope with these things? How do I start to deal with all of the different various triggers in my life that lead to, all of these different feelings? Whether it's within my relationship or something outside of my relationship. Because regardless if it's in a relationship or not, or marriage or not, a relation or marriage marital relationship, then it's still something that needs to be dealt with, and it's still feelings that you have, and you still have to deal with those feelings whether the person cooperates or not. And it's hard. And if you don't have any idea of how to do that, because you have lost yourself in the process, always dealing with somebody else's feelings and always trying to fix and help somebody else, it's hard. And I know for me, learning how to actually sit with my own feelings and deal with my own feelings versus having to suppress how I feel because maybe somebody doesn't want to hear it, or because maybe I'm constantly listening and providing my space for somebody else to vent about what they might be needing, because I'm that type of person. I want to be there for that person. I want to help. And you lose yourself in that process. So just outside of being upset about the grief and the loss of the person that you may have loved, or or whatever the toxic or hard situation is, it's still it's still something that you have to deal with. You have to. And you can't go any further until you've dealt with it. I will say that even in today's incident, that I've learned that as much as you can feel like you have gotten over a situation, God will show you what needs to be cleaned out. When I talked about, in a post on my Instagram page, about how, you know, the creator, my creator, is showing me how to clean out the wound and this and everything that I have gone through in life, versus me trying to go to see a doctor and saying, hey, here's pills for you to take for your depression and anxiety and your anxious attachment and whatever else, you know, has been attached to me now based on, you know, the emotional and mental damage that has been done. And it's crazy because it's like, yo, like, yo, it's just crazy to think that now I have to go through this. Like, this is now my life where It's not something that just goes away anymore. Where you felt like you were completely normal before, and now your life falls apart, and now these all of these added things are here, and now you have to deal with them. So can you see why you would have to go through the anger phase? Because what you were comfortable in before is no longer there, and now you're in something that's completely untracked. It's been untouched, is the unknown. It's a whole new lane that you have to ride in, and you are learning how to just navigate it yourself, when before you had it set to the T. You dotted your I's, you crossed your T's, you periods, commas, everything that you needed, you knew where it was, and you had it done. And now that's all been shaken up, and now you're here, and you're like, why am I here? How did I get here? What is going on? All of it goes in your head. So, so during the healing phase, you've heard me say, like, in my posts or different things, that it's like the joy. You got to find moments of joy. Finding these moments of joy is something that is so important, because you need to find the moments that will be able to overpower the negativity that your mind is always constantly going to be thinking when it comes to those feelings of grief, denial, and anger. Like all of that, you have to be able to find something that helps you cope with it, and helps you keep your mindset on what is coming ahead, and how to keep your focus forward versus looking towards the past. It's hard. It really is hard, but you can totally do it. And I find that being able to train my thoughts to more positive thoughts, or joy, or me just telling myself, we're going forward. I can't sit in that negative feeling. Like, we're moving forward, that past has gone, and I'm working my way forward from that past. You will find that you will see yourself growing, and you will find that you feel differently about things. You will find that your thoughts are different. You will find that you speak different. And people have said that about me, that that they see change in different things that I've done, in order to help me train myself to a new in this new lane. Even in when you those moments where you feel like everything is going good, even though that there are moments that where it's like very stressful, and it could be something that's completely not related to your situation, and but it's still a part of your journey. It's still a part of how the creator was showing you how you need to deal with yourself, and how you're learning about yourself in the part of self discovery. So even while that is all well and done, and it's like, okay, like I'm in a good space, I'm liking these moments of like these glimmers of peace, and it's feeling more and more like it's coming, it's coming my way. Then something happens, and you're like, WTF? Like, WTF? Why does this have to pop up in order for me to like feel like, wait, I just got the wind knocked out of me, and now I'm stumbling, and I gotta hurry up and catch my stumble before I fall back. Like, in these situations, when this situation happened to me today, it was one of those things where it was like, yo, like, okay, I caught myself. There was a text message that went out, you know, and I said, is this okay? Like, is this okay? Like, this is why I'm feeling like this. This is something that needs to be dived into, a little bit more. But I also realized that in that moment, the one positive thing for me was that I realized that I've grown enough to immediately be able to go to the source, go to the resource that I need to talk about that feeling that I had immediately, And then to be able to recognize that I was able because of my growth, I was able to know that I needed to take a minute to put a pinch on that because at that moment I was actually busy doing something. But we had to put a paper clip on it and hold it together real quick, so that way we could come back to it and deep a little bit more into that. And that was really helpful for me to get through the day, because if you don't have a resource or a person that you can call, or a therapist that you can call to say, hey, I need you real quick, this is what happened, um it's super important that you know that you have that outlet, because when you're able to do that, it allows you to put a paperclip on it, put a clothespin, whatever, to clip it for a second, so that you could bookmark that. You know what the feeling is. That person who you are trusting with these feelings, trusting that you can vent to, um that they will be able to put a paperclip on that, so that way it's something that you can come back to at a later time when you're able, and start to dive a little bit deeper into it. Because then you realize at that point, shoot, there's something that I'm still angry about. It could be something that you're still angry about, and if that's the case, even in the moments of joy, there's still something that God sees in that wound, that He's telling you, this is where I need you to scrape out right now. I need you to scrape out a little bit more, because you got a little bit more anger over here. I need you to scrape this out. But I need you to also understand why you're scraping it out, and how to scrape it out, and how to keep it clean. Now that once you get done scraping it out and you've seen everything, all the dirt and whatever that's in there, and now that you get that cleaned out and you find the solution and you're able to put the solution back in, so that way you don't have to reopen that wound and clean it back out again for doing the same thing that you've done before in the past. This is exactly why you got to have somebody that you can go to and help hold you accountable when it comes to your feelings, because if you don't, you're going to set yourself back further. If I had not taken and recognized and taken the moment to sit down and recognize what was going on and how I was starting to feel in that moment, when I start to feel triggered by what happened, you gotta know when to take a moment and recognize that, to acknowledge it, so that way you don't completely fall back. You can handle it from there. You might stumble, you might wobble a little bit, but you still catch your balance. You can stand straight, you can stand tall. You know that there's something that you need to work on, and you can step forward knowing that you're going to work on it and handle it, because it's the only way you're going to be able to clean out your wound and have it completely clean, so that way you don't have to go back and clean that wound out again. Let me tell you, God will show you everything. Everything, all caps, everything, all caps, exclamation point, that needs to be taken care of. Ain't no way I would have been able to acknowledge my feelings, to respect myself enough to acknowledge my feelings, and love myself enough to acknowledge my feelings beforehand. Because old Monica would have just been like, yep, nobody cares, nobody was whatever. This is, I hold this and I suppress that. That wasn't, I wasn't loving myself then. I wasn't self-caring myself for myself. Like, none of that was happening because I was just suppressing. We need to talk about our feelings. If we're not going to talk about our feelings, this is what happens. I didn't talk about my feelings, the majority of, my relationship. I didn't talk about what was going on in my relationship. I didn't feel like it was anybody's business. I didn't, because my relationship was between me, my spouse, and the good Lord. That's who it was between. But even in the sense of that, I still should have had somebody that I was able to go to, and I didn't have that person. So my person who I felt like I was supposed to be able to go to, I didn't have that person even to go vent to. So not having somebody to go vent to, not wanting to go vent to people for the sake of people being in your business when they shouldn't be in your business because it's not their relationship and it's not their marriage. I get it, people. But the problem is, this is what, excuse my language, F's you up. 100% F's you up. Like, totally. And it sucks because then there's so much more that you got to work through behind that in that relationship. Besides the treatment that you get, the negative treatment, the harsh treatment, the anger that you get, whatever it is that you're getting from that person that is not as positive, is not encouraging you, is not creating a safe space, is not making you feel secure. None of that is healthy. None of it is healthy. And when you realize that, it's hard. It makes it hard to grieve the person that you once felt safe with, that you thought that you would never ever not feel safe with. And then when you feel unsafe with that person, it's scary because you're like, yo, like the one person I felt like I could always be safe with, I don't ever feel safe with them anymore. How am I supposed to feel? I'm angry. I'm angry that I was supposed to feel safe with this person. I'm angry that I allowed myself to continue to see things that eventually would lead me to see the things that I already knew, which prompted me to make the decisions that I had to make in order for me to start caring for me. Regardless of what anybody said, the disrespect, all of it, the lies, all of it, I still had to make the choice for me because I was sick. I was sick from the fact that this was not going to work. I was sick from the treatment over the years. So whatever it is, a year, 2 years, 80 years, 60 years, I don't care what it is. Depending on the severity of what it is that you're going through, it takes a lot. Mental reconstruction is way, way, way more than I ever anticipated it to be. Way more than I ever anticipated it to be. Like, you have to rewire yourself to think that once, for the things that even from my past that I felt like I wasn't necessarily triggered by, I had been physically abused by somebody, physically, emotionally, mentally abused by somebody. The physical abuse, yes. And that person, the time frame that was that person, it wasn't a very long time, just a couple, maybe a year or two, whatever. And even in that time, yeah, so you move on from that. Like, I moved on from that, and it's not ever anything that I was ever triggered by because my spouse never laid a hand on me. So I was never triggered by that because that wasn't something that was a reality for me in my relationship. Would have been different if I was with somebody who did the same thing. If I put myself in a position for somebody who would do the same thing, that would be a different trigger. Then that would be something that I would have to heal from the constant reminder of, like the constant reminder in addition to the constant action behind it. Now you got to retrain your whole brain once you're single and once you're going through this process, after you've made a decision to leave that situation. Now you got to train your whole brain about people you're watching more about people are doing and their actions and what they're saying, and it's so crazy to think that it's like, okay, like now I have to go through and I literally have to watch my thoughts and train my thoughts and watch what I say and how I do certain things, because it could affect or it could trigger me myself. Not even just from other people. It could be that I could trigger myself. And I don't want to do that either. Just as much as other triggers come from the outside, my outside world, I'll say. Um and those are ones that those are the ones that I have to deal with, because I need to learn how to go through life dealing with the trauma that I've gone through. I've got to go through life dealing, knowing that there's always going to be something that triggers me. It's going to be a vehicle on the road that triggers me, that reminds me of something. It's going to be um something somebody might say that triggers me, that reminds me of something that might, trigger anger and a feeling and in that moment. But if I don't learn how to handle those emotions, and I don't know how to love myself enough to handle how I handle myself when it comes to them, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why I'm wasting time. My therapist says the work that I've done already is irreversible, and that's why it's so, so important to make sure that you get connected with the right people to help you get through this process. It's such a hard journey, and I just want people to know that are in it with me right now, like, you got this. I understand it's hard, and everybody's at a different level of strength and whether how we're growing in our strength, but you got this. Keep pushing forward. The rebirth that comes out of this is going to be amazing and so beautiful, that you are going to not even recognize any part of the old person that you shed when you get to that stage of acceptance and peace and healing that you so much deserve. I want to say that the anger phase, I personally, I will say that my anger lies with the fact that, and this could be for other people that are in the journey, who have gone through the journey or who will come up through the journey. I think my anger phase for me is, I'm I was angry. I'll speak as far as the past. I was angry with the fact that my life, what I anticipated, and what I feel like I worked so hard for when it comes to my family, just got destroyed. 20 years, and in a matter of a couple of years, um, just completely destroyed. And I say that because the last couple of years is when it all really, really fell apart. All along, there were just little moments, and that they say it's all the little moments that that add up to come to one great moment. And that's just what happened. I'm angry that my kids have to go through this process, when I never ever dreamt in a million years that my kids would be, now dealing with two-parent home. I am angry with the fact that I am single, and I am out here, and I never thought that I would be a single mom. And this shit is hard as hell. I gotta shovel my car out in the wintertime. I gotta pump my gas. Like, I gotta take my groceries in. I gotta cook breakfast some days. You know what I mean? Like, there are just certain things where it's like, why? Like, why would you do this to me? And some of it is petty, and some of it is not. But and I say it's petty because it might be, like I said, oh, I gotta pump gas now. When I was married, that was not something that I had to do, or I gotta take my trash out, or and so it's petty, even though it's not, because it's like, that was your life, and that was all of your life. And when you've lived that for so long, it's it's just hard, it's hard, the grief, the denial, and the anger phase of it until you get to the acceptance. Like, okay, yeah, like, here's is it, and that's where I'm at. Like, I've gotten to the point where, like, hey, this is my life. Do I enjoy it all the time? No, especially now that winter's going to be coming too. That's going to suck because I really, really hate having to scrape my car off and do it all by myself in the winter because I hate being cold. But anyway, side note. So, so it is hard. I'm angry that my kids don't have both of their parents the way they should have both of their parents. Angry that my kids, unfortunately, do not have the family ties that they should have, that I've always prayed that they would have. I am angry that I couldn't do it. I couldn't make it work. There's the anger comes to yourself once you get through being angry at the other person, for whatever you felt their role was that they didn't play or do well enough. Then the anger turns around and it comes to you. So it's like, oh, why did you allow this to happen? And this and that. And then you get angry because you realize that your own childhood traumas or the reason why you still made the mistake and allowed it to happen. So then it's like, but then you can't be almost angry because you didn't even have the resources back then to ensure that you really, really weren't going to make the same mistakes. So, you get angry with yourself for that. And it's this whole big, like, giant cycle until the hamster wheel, like, you're like, oh shit, I gotta get off because I understand that I can't be angry about that anymore. Now I gotta move into this next stage. And as you may feel, like I said, you may feel like you're going into the next stage and, parts of you are going into the next stage, parts of you are evolving into that next stage. But then there's something else that's deep down that God said, nope, I gotta move you over here. Move the light over here and open that section up right there and clean that out right in there. And that's where I am today. And so I wanted to share that with you guys. And, like I say all the time, for the ones that have come up and gone through that process, please, please, please chime in so others, can know like what you've dealt with, if you can expound, on what was said in this episode. Um, the ones who are coming up behind us, ask questions because we want to be here for you because we understand what type of journey it is. And for the ones, man, who are out there rocking with me through this in the mud right now, talk about it. What are you going through? What are you feeling? What are your, what stage are you in? Are you more in the denial versus the anger? Are you working your way out of denial, you're evolving from denial to anger? Or are you, in anger evolving to acceptance? Or you just sitting in one of them right now? Maybe you're at the tail end where it's about you when the denial is about you or the anger is about you. It just depends. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. I took a little bit more time today. That one was just a lot was on me, and I felt like there was a lot to say in regards to that. So I feel good. It feels good to talk to you guys. It feels good to heal out loud. I want you guys to be able to heal out loud with me too. But I also want you to go enjoy the rest of the 5 o'clock hour. Sorry, I only gave you guys about 15 minutes, but hey, it's okay. It's still 5 o'clock somewhere. And I can't wait to talk to you guys on the next episode of Hot Chocolate and a Marshmallow. Bye.